Good morning everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. It is Sunday, which is the day that I normally try and do garden updates, except that I missed last week completely because of the bushfires, and it's normally like Monday or Tuesday by the time I get to doing them. So Apollo is out in the garden this morning with me. He was helping me water, and he's collecting, he's collecting, where are we? There you go. He's collecting zucchinis for me, which we have quite a few of because I've been a bit slack. And he watered everything for me. Zucchini, let me turn you around. Oh, don't drop them. Lots of zucchini. Was there any more?
Oh yeah, there's more.
You gonna get more? So he's picking zucchini at the moment. I need to prune some of the lower leaves off again. It's been a couple of weeks since I did that, so there's a lot of bushing in there, which means it's kind of easy to miss the zucchini that are in there. I'm tying up tomatoes, which as well I have totally let go a bit feral. There is far too many suckers, especially on my paste tomatoes, so I'm going through and trying to make sure that I don't let any more suckers go. I have a hard time cutting the suckers off that I've already let go. Like if they've got flowers on them then I tend to just let them go and let each plant have a couple of leaders, but the problem is that we're coming up to having like each plant having 3 leaders, and I plant them really close together, so planting them that close together is not ideal. You got a really big one?
Really big zucchini.
Really big zucchini.
It's like the size of my head.
We might have to make zucchini slice or something. Yeah. So I'm going through and pruning as many suckers as I can off the tomatoes and tying them up a little bit higher if they need it, because as they're getting fruit at the top, they're getting top heavy, and we got some rain the other night. Not a huge amount, but we did get some rain, and so some of them were starting to topple. I showed you the other day that I pruned a whole bunch of the basil. It all looks to be coming back nicely at the moment. There doesn't appear to be any issues with that, so that's good. So I'll be able to do another harvest of that soon, and the basil ice cream was really, really nice, so I'm glad I did that. Peppers are starting to take off as well, so let me turn you around and show you some of the bits and pieces. So the peppers that are in these beds, so these are the second lot of peppers that I planted, because we have those 2 beds over on the other side that, if you've been around, you know are not doing well. The tomatoes are really curly. We do have some tomato curling here on a couple of the varieties, but it's nowhere near the weight is over in that bed. But the peppers are doing magnificently here compared. They're bushing up nicely. They're not appearing to have any fruit drop or anything like that. Oh,
they
okay.
were all on the top of the plant.
We got some silver slicer cucumbers as well. Keeps on going out of focus for some reason. Some silver slicer cucumbers that Apollo just picked as well, so we'll have them with lunch or something. So these peppers, yeah, they're really taking off. They're really looking wonderful and green and curling, and they're starting to flower, but we're not getting much in the way of fruit drop or anything like that, so I'm really happy about that. So these were replacement ones for the ones that are over there as well. There's some more in the other beds, but also I think these ones are the paprika ones. I have to look at my notes on what's in each bed. I do put the labels in the beds, but they always wash off. I know these ones are jalapeno. So these are replacements for the ones that aren't doing well on the other bed, which I'll show you in a minute. And then these ones were the paprika ones. So again, they're looking really lovely. So the tomatoes are getting a little out of control, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. We still are getting a little bit of blossom and rot in some of the fruit. Like you can see, this one here is red, which means that it's going to have a blossom and rot because none of the others are ripening, so that one just needs to be discarded. But we're getting plenty that that look okay. So we did the Epsom salt in the bottom, but we'll just see how it goes. The Kajari melon is really taking off up that trellis, which is nice. There's a little melon there. So I think I mentioned before, but Kajari melons, when they ripen, they fall off. So you need to sling your melons. So I'll have to grab some netting. Cords in the way. Some netting or something, and I will sling that and tie it to the trellis. You can tell when it's ripening because it goes orange, so it's still got a little while to go there for that one. But if you don't sling them, then they will fall off and smash rather than be edible. Apollo found a little pickling cucumber that he's decided is his garden snack for this morning. So the cherry tomatoes have taken off now too. So we've got some trellises of tomatoes in most of these, and they're getting some height and some nice thick stems, so that's good. This is the other basil that I harvested from. We've still got this one I must have missed. It's got some flowers on it, so I'll have to take that one. That random silver beet plant that I stuck in the side. I also managed to germinate some ground cherries, or whatever you want to call them. gooseberries, whatever you want to refer them as. Unfortunately, I watch a lot of American YouTube channels and they call them ground cherries, so I don't think that's what we call them here. But anyway, that Robin gave me a couple of dried up fruit to try germinating some, and I managed to, and there's a couple of seedlings in this little section here, and I put some in another one. So they grow quite large, I've found, and can kind of take over. So I put them in this corner of this bed in the hopes that I can sort of manage them. This is all the zucchini we got. All the zucchini and some cucumbers. Yeah.
Yes, the cucumbers are on top.
Very yummy. Cool. You can take them in if you want. Thank you for your help.
Welcome.
The other tomatoes, I was really excited to see how well these two were doing. These two are the solar tomatoes, and look how lovely and thick the stems are and healthy they are. So looking forward to that. Marigolds have taken off. That another spare silver beet. These were the extra guajillo peppers. So again, we'll go over to that other bed and check on it soon. But these are the ones to replace the ones that aren't doing really well, and these ones again in this bed are doing really well. So I have a bit of a theory. I don't know how accurate it is, but I have a bit of a theory about some of the spots in the garden. We got a truckload of mushroom compost, and the first beds that we filled were those ones over there, and that meant that the mushroom compost that we were using was quite wet, quite dense, quite rich and strong smelling, because it was fresh off the truck on the top. As we got through the garden beds, there was longer between using the mushroom compost, and that meant that some of the bags that we were using, because they were open bags, not sealed, were quite dry and straw-like, which is what they are, because they're mushrooms grown in straw, basically, and manure and stuff. And so they spread out a bit easier in the beds, and they weren't as hot. I'm going to use the term hot, and I don't know if that's completely accurate with mushroom compost, but I know that that's accurate for a lot of composts. So what I think the problem is that the mushroom compost is a little too dense and hot in those beds, or was when these seedlings went in. It could also explain some where there's a couple of patches, like where there's a couple of patches at the end of those beds, that possibly could have been the same bag of mushroom compost split between those two ends of the bed when we were filling both beds, that were also a little bit too heavy, a little bit too hot, a little bit too dense. And then the other areas, it's been spread out better and it wasn't as hot. So I wasn't aware that mushroom compost you could have that problem with, but at the same time, I was buying it fresh from a new supplier from a farm. Like, she went and collected it from the farm, loaded a truck and brought it over in open bags. And previously I've bought it from a guy who got it from a farm, but he rebagged it. So obviously it had been turned and processed to a degree before it was rebagged. So that meant there was going to be a timeline on it that there wasn't for this one. So that is my guess anyway, that the soil basically is too rich, too hot for those tomatoes in those beds. And it's unfortunate, but we've learned. Now, because these beds have been filled, it means that next year we can just top them up slightly. And we may just use the Active Grow to top them up, because that's the easy thing for us to get, because Raf's locally sells it and it's not a bad price. He actually will sell it to us by the pallet load if we want. So, we could buy a pallet of it to top up all the beds next year. And I would like to get a few more beds put in. I am lacking some space for some of the non-food groups, basically, like some more zinnias, some sunflowers, some more cornflowers, some more snapdragons, all that sort of thing. I wouldn't mind some long. I've got one whole wall of that bed over there that doesn't have any, of that building over there that doesn't have any beds on it. And because the back of the wall is made of metal, I thought I could just build a bed onto it rather than having to buy them for things like all my flowers and all that sort of stuff, and have a whole wall of flowers on that side, which you'd see every time you came in the driveway, which would be nice. I did find a few beans in the bean bed, but they're not going real well. They're edible, so I thought I'd point them out to Apollo so Apollo could pick a couple of beans if he wanted to. The bean plants, I think something got into this bed. It was really badly flattened at one point, so puppies shouldn't have been in this room, in this space.
Remember when we were doing the beds? The puppies jumped in?
Yeah, no, but it was only recently. But so we are getting a few beans, not very many. The kids are happy to eat them straight off the plant, which is fine. I don't tend to grow beans for preserving purposes. It's purely for eating, but they're very small, and they're
No, don't. There's something.
There's some there.
This one's big.
Yep, so you can grab it if you want to eat them up. Share them with Sonnet. There's a big one over there too.
So I gotta put down the other zucchinis. Where's zucchini?
Weird zucchini. Yeah, that one's not properly pollinated. So there's a couple of beans. So there is a few scattered around. Look, there's a big one here. So you can go through and look, there's a couple there. You can go through and pick them all, take them in, share them with kids. So we are getting a few, but not huge amounts. It's all right. There's a little pickling cucumber here that I probably missed. So there's a little pickling cucumber there that can go as well. So yeah, this bean bed was a little bit of a fail. The cucumbers have done really well. I've been really happy with the cucumbers. Growing them on this single string has worked well. Though I did have them, I mentioned that I had them cascading out because I didn't want to cull the suckers off because the beans weren't doing really well. But I think that gave the rats an ingress into the bed. So then I had to pull them back up. So I think I just plant more plants and make sure to cut off all the suckers in future so that they're not overhanging. But there is flowers on these beans, most of them, and things like that, so we may get some flushes out of it. But
I get lots of beans.
The radishes are just not doing much of anything. Like they just have these really, like, this is a daikon radish, so it's supposed to be long. I don't know how long they're supposed to take to finish growing, to be honest. But oh look,
they are growing.
Look at that. So we are getting, oh, it's not focusing. We are getting some out of it. I don't know how big they're supposed to go because I've never grown these before. The idea was to make some kimchi out of some of these. So maybe they've been in here a long time. So maybe we need to just go through and pull them and get what we get and then reseed this bed. Because they've been in here far longer than I would normally plant radishes. But I don't know whether daikon radishes are supposed to be they are a bigger crop. So I don't know. I think I might, because this bed is doing so poorly and Apollo is happy to do it. Apollo is more than happy to sit here and pull stuff out. He might need to go and get a basket and then pull all these radishes out and we'll see what we get and we'll just have a look at the end. So, you know. But I'm happy with the cucumbers. They're doing well. The zucchinis are all doing very well. We're getting plenty of zucchinis. You just saw we got a bunch of zucchinis off there. I'm still struggling with the whole vertical of them. It is a challenging thing and I don't know whether I'll pursue it because the biggest problem too that I found is like this one's growing vertically really well. Some of them aren't, but this one is. But the problem is it's growing so fast that every time I come over here, it's just about, no, grab a, I suppose, yeah, you can use that. Every time I come out here, it's bending in half and potentially damaging the stem. So, but that one's doing that and some of the others are barely growing upright at all. So, I don't know. Cabbages, we're still calling them a loss. They're just, you know, like this one here. There should be one in the middle here. Yeah, look at that. Completely eaten out. So even there, I mentioned last week or the week before or whatever, that I put some netting over this one. Just a sec, Apollo has something to show me.
I'm growing too.
Yeah, but they're not edible size. But yeah, just pull them all and we'll reassess. I think we need to use that bed. We need to replant that bed. So we'll get them all out of there and then we can maybe plant some more and see how we go. Yeah, we'll see. So this bed last week or the week before or whatever, I showed you that I had put netting over it finally. Problem is that there must have been something caught in it and it's just been stripping everything. Everything is being completely stripped. So I've been pulling stuff out because it's just pointless. Like this has some lovely new middle growth. This is a sprouting broccoli, which is supposed to be like, you know, a 6-month plant. And it's got some lovely new growth, but the sides of, yeah, I don't know how it works. We'll have to research it, buddy, because the point is that they're supposed to be long radishes. So maybe they're supposed to stay in there much longer than normal radishes and those roots would expand. I don't know. You can taste it if you want. I'd wash it first though. I put a ground cherry in the corner of this bed too because I'm pulling the cabbages out, and I also put a test tomato here, and I might see if any of my other tomato seedlings have survived in the hothouse. I haven't been watering them, and just put some tomatoes in here to check. Yeah, that one's a good size. So maybe there was just too many planted. Maybe I just put them too close together and that's why we've got some that are good and some that aren't. Don't know, we'll see. Test run of radishes there. So yeah, I put a cherry tomato in there. We'll see how they go. This IBC is doing really well now though with the all the spinach leaves as well as the silver beet. Again, we need to use some of this. There was spinach in here as well as silver beet. And I think this was a spinach, but I don't know, because it's in the row ahead. But it's awfully large leafed spinach, so I don't know. We'll see. So yes, the zucchinis are doing well. We're getting lots of fruit on them that we're picking, so that works well. The strawberries are still doing nothing, which is really sad because I spent, I think it was $90 on these from a farm. Yeah, lots of long ones like that aren't really usable, but we'll see. So yeah, the strawberry beds aren't doing anything, and it's sad. I spent $90 or something to buy runners from a farm, and the runners looked fine when we got here. I planted them in, I topped the beds up, I've kept them watered. I probably missed these beds because I didn't realise they had anything in them, so I'm going to water them now, but I don't know. But these other two beds are doing well. So we got the native bee buzzing around there. Some lettuce, which we've been harvesting to eat with sandwiches, some spinach and some silver beet, and a couple of extra tomatoes I planted. As I said, I forgot to water the seedlings that I had left in the hothouse, but I grabbed a couple and stuck them in here, and we'll see if they take off or not. But these brandy wines are doing really well, and they're the ones that are really curly in the other bed, so I'm happy with that. And then again, I mentioned that we were going to lose a bunch of these zinnias because they were in pots for too long, but some of them are recovering. And then we've got some bergamot, some chamomile, some cornflower, nasturtiums, all that sort of thing. The buckets are doing really well. We've got some great growth on them, some fruit and some pumpkin and some watermelons in all of them, so we will continue to see how they progress over time. The herb beds in the back are doing well. We've got some flowering chamomile already. The rhubarb seems to be taking off. The plants are staying alive, so we've got 4 different chamomile plants in here. And then the peppermint's still alive. I'd like to see it flourish and spread. And the sage, and again, we've come to another week and I still haven't talked the children into picking up all the bags. I have asked, but anyway. Parsley, arnica, echinacea, nasturtiums, they're all doing fine. These ones are doing fine as well. That warrigal green that I thought I had managed to get them back, either something got to it or it died off. It's still sitting there, but there's no green on it, so I doubt that I'm going to get anything from that. But otherwise, everything's looking pretty good in here too. So I'm just taking a show you of those curly tomato plants. As a side note, there was an odd number of strawberry runners, so I put one over here next to the asparagus bed. We had strawberries in with the asparagus originally because people said that it worked really well, but we found it really difficult to have all this ferning and also have strawberries, so we didn't do it again. But this strawberry runner has greened up, whereas none of the other 24 that I bought have. So and these are my curly beds, so they're still growing, they're still doing things, but we've got a lot of fruit fall on the peppers. The tops of the tomatoes just look so unhealthy, but we do have some fruit, so I'm just going to coddle the bed and see how I go. Some of the lower leaves look fine, the top leaves have got all that curling, but it seems to be getting a bit better, so I don't know. I'm just going to keep going with the beds, see how they go. The second bed does the same with the fruit and stuff. What's the matter? Oh, a spider. So again, lots of curl and that, but it's still progressing, so we're just going to keep on keeping on with that one. So Apollo's clearing this bed for me, and then we might just reseed more radishes and see how we go a second time round, and just try spacing them out a little bit better and go from there. I don't know. Radishes are only supposed to be like a 4-week crop, and these were some of the first things I ever planted, and I know that the daikon radishes probably are a longer crop than that, but even the little, we're not even getting any of the little red radishes, are we? No? No. So don't know. So yeah, so I need to pull all these cabbages out of the middle here because they're all pointless to keep on trying to cultivate, and then we can put something else in here again as well, because even the ones that are heading have so much damage on them. Bulbing on some of my beetroot the other day. It's not particularly big. There was there we go. That's like one didn't make it, but one has. But we've got all these greens that we can use as well, so put them in your basket. So there is some bulbs on some of these. They didn't bulb up hugely well, but that could be partly the cabbage being overshadowing everything. But also the theory with the radishes too is that maybe the soil was just a bit rich. But what I could do is I could cut all these cabbages out and I could plant an extra 2 rows of beetroot in this bed. And then I'll have succession beetroots from these ones, and I have all these greens. So they've got the greens have done really, really well. And the bed's not excessive in nitrogen, so I'm not real sure. Anyway, they're doing really well. So overall, I'm pretty happy with everything. I can't wait for this tomato to blush, because it'll be my first really big tomato, and that will be lovely. But other than that, yeah, doing okay. I decided to just go for it. I've just cleared this bed mostly. There's still some sitting in here because I can't find my big snips, so I don't really want to pull them out of the soil because I prefer not to disturb the soil, so I need to snip off the bases of them. But at least the beetroot are going to be getting some more sun, which will allow them to bulb up a little bit more, maybe. We'll see. But regardless, we've been eating the greens, so even if we don't get much in the way of bulbs, then we've got the greens to eat anyway. I did notice there were some nice golden ones in here, so it'd be nice to get them to grow a little bit more as well. Oh, we got a nest of some sort of something here.
That is the rat nest.
No, it's not. It
looks like one.
Spider or something, because it looks like yeah, or fungus of some sort. Just tip it out of the bed. Some sort of fungus or a insect nesting.
Said, I want to live here.
So we'll get rid of that.
I want to live here.
Could be fungus. There could have been a leaf overhanging this, because this is quite a small plant, so it could have had a whole cabbage leaf hanging over it. So it's probably just fungus because we've had lots of rain. So we pulled them out. As I always say, learning. I don't know everything about it all, and that's a good thing. It means that I continue to learn. So even though there's been some neglect, and it's been a few weeks of like just life getting in the way, I'm pretty okay with it all. I'm pretty okay with the fact that we're still getting edible food. The tomatoes are still looking okay in, majority. There's 80 plants, which is still the first year that we grew tomatoes. We grew 205, and they all did really well. And this is what I'm comparing my gardening journey against, and why I feel like I'm failing. But we do have 80 plants, and there is a lot of them that are looking pretty good. So it does mean that we should get a decent amount of tomatoes out of it. We've got plenty of greens, which was a really big thing for me, was being able to have greens all year round. And hopefully we are failing with this cabbage crop, but spring cabbages were not necessarily something we were going to be able to do anyway. So hopefully in autumn we'll be able to grow lots of cabbages, and that will be great as well. And I'll net them as I plant them and stuff, because we'll have it set up to be able to do that, rather than this whole process where we've been doing it piecemeal as we went, because we had to get the beds and then we had to get the soil and then all this sort of stuff. Now that we've got it set up, so the irrigation still isn't set up, and that's purely just we haven't had a chance to get that drill bit that we need to get with the fires and everything else. We just haven't been anywhere. So I still need the drill bit to be able to put the irrigation onto that tank to be able to test it, but I also need another half Besser block, because the tank needs to be supported in the middle, not by the edges of the beds, and 2 Besser bricks are just a little too short. So if I put a 2.5, I reckon that'll be the right height for that tank to sit on the Besser bricks. That will take the majority of the weight. The edges of the bed will help stabilize it, but won't be holding weight, and then the irrigation can be set up and we can test it. So we haven't even tested it yet, because we haven't got the drill bit to attach the irrigation to, so we're getting there. But anyway, and we have, because we just culled all those cabbages, Apollo is going to go feed the pigs these, so we might walk over and see the pigs. We'll get the cabbages all fed to them, because they will love that. So the piggies badly need some straw. We got a bale of straw a couple of weeks ago, but we used it in the chicken pens and we ran out, so we need to get a couple more of the big bales so they can have some straw as well, because they like it for sleeping, but they eat it as well. So the problem is that we can put a whole, you know, large bale of straw in here, and because they eat it as well as sleep in it, it's gone pretty quickly, and that's fine. But we don't have anywhere to store dry hay or straw, so we have to buy it every time we want to use it. We can't store it, because the lady that we got the last lot of straw off, they will deliver up to 14 bales for $150, which would be great, and I'd be happy to pay the amount because we can only carry like 1 or 2 bales at a time, so it's handy to have the quantity. But we need like a hay shed or something, like something with a roof where it can sit and stay dry to be used. But also it'd probably attract more rats and mice, and it's a hard one, that one, so we will see how we go. But I do hate when it gets to this like dirt rather than the straw, because they do adore the straw. Probably can't hear the crunch because I got the camera facing the wrong way. Let me turn around and see if that helps.
Piggy. Piggy. So many good piggies. We got 3 cool piggies. And soon we'll have a female piggy. Eventually. And then these 2 can have babies, and then we eat the babies.
So that's the garden tour for, I think it might be week 8, maybe, because we missed a week 9 maybe, I'm not sure, I'll check. Thank you for joining me again today, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.